to the Tony Bush Jr. Show, baby. And today we're assembling the brand new Ride-Tech subframe. We're putting the suspension and the steering on this bad boy. I'm so excited. There's a lot of parts. We're gonna do a step-by-step tutorial on this episode. So if you bought a Ride-Tech subframe or you're thinking about purchasing one, this will be the step-by-step video on how to assemble this bad boy. So without further ado, make sure you hit those buttons, the like, the share, the comment, the subscribe. I'm gonna get ready to put the subframe together, and here we go. Small disclaimer, okay? This is tutorial purposes only. So when I put everything together, I will not be using the recommended Loctite or the torque specs because I'm tearing this thing back apart so I can Cerakote everything, and then I'll put it back together and use the recommended Loctite and torque specs. And by the way, all that information is in the manuals. And to add to that, Ride-Tech did a great job with all their information, with all their instructions. A lot of times, you know, and this is just me talking, this is not like trying to pump or promote anything, but literally, how many times have you guys opened instructions from a brand of parts and it's confusing? So this is literally one of the few times where I've opened the boxes and the manuals are straightforward. They even do colors, color pictures. I love colors. I don't like reading, I like photos, but they did a great job with that. There's also videos and their tech support, but this was literally one of the easiest processes that I've experienced, and they knocked it out the park. So without further ado, let's dig in. I went ahead and assembled the passenger side just so I could see what I was getting into. So today we're going to do the driver's side, and it's literally the same process for both sides. So we'll do the driver's side today, and then you can apply it to the passenger side. We're going to do the upper, lower control arms. I'm going to take the rack and pinion back out so I can show you guys a couple little key things on that. This is the coil, the shock. We're going to do the spindle. I'm also going to go with the brake setup that I used, and in case you guys are using that same brake kit. The first thing we're going to do is the upper control arms. Now, in the instructions, it says these are not size specific, so you can literally install this on the driver's side or the passenger side. Just don't install it upside down. That's the only thing, okay? And just to go back to what I was saying earlier about how easy they make this stuff, check this out. Look at that. That says UCA. That's not a college. That's not a college, okay? But that means upper control arm to subframe. So this is cool. Everything has been labeled. Look, subframe to car. What does this bad boy says? This says steering arm to spindle. So they literally took the time to label everything for people like myself who only likes pictures. So let's go ahead and take this hardware and take it back to the subframe. The cool thing is this control arm comes pre-assembled with the subframe kit, so you don't have to worry about pressing the bushings in. And if you try to put the upper control arm on and it just doesn't go on right away, you can always use like a rubber mallet to kind of force one of the sides on if it doesn't go on smoothly. So I'm just going to tap this. Ooh, look. Ooh, tap, 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 tap. Now, when I get close to the center, I'll start to align the bolt in the hole. Now, as I tap down, I'm going to push this bolt, and then that'll let me know once I hit the center, and I should be able to just push this bolt through if it aligns up correctly. Let's see. Sometimes you have to play around with it a little bit to kind of get it lined up, but once it's lined up, Ooh, it's like butter, baby. But I forgot to put the washer on. Oh, no. Let me take that back out real quick. See, we're doing this in real time. I'm going to show you everything. Here we go. Now the washer is on. So the washer's on. Let's slide that all the way through. Okay. Now we're going to put our second washer on and our locking nut. Follow the instructions. If it says to add Loctite and whatever the recommended foot-pounds are, go ahead and lock that down. Now let's move on to the next step. We want to install the bushings for the engine mounts. And this is pretty straightforward. You literally just slide both of these bushings in, right, until they're flush. And if you're having trouble sliding them in flush till they're all the way against the frame, you can use a C-clamp vice grip, and what that'll do is you'll just squeeze both sides, and then that'll push them in flush. And once you do that, you want to enter this sleeve, right, from either side. You want to push that sleeve all the way in, and then, just like the instructions say, if you find yourself pushing in this sleeve and it starts to push this bushing out, what you can do is just use your hand or some type of pry tool to add a little force up against this bushing so it doesn't move, and then continue to slide this in. I'm not going to do it all the way because it's going to be a pain to take out, right? So this is just showing you that's how flush you want the bushing to be up against this arm. And then you want this gold sleeve to be flush with this bushing. Again, I'm not going to press it all the way in because it will be a pain to take out. As you can see right now, it's a pain to take out. So let's go ahead and move on to the next step. Before we install the lower control arm, this is something very important that I must go over. Now, you could thank me later. You can send me a tip, Cash App, Zelle, Venmo. It's all good. This is the eccentric washer that will install on the lower control arm. There's 4 of these bad boys. Once they receive this coating, it makes it hard for this bolt to go through, right? So let me demonstrate that. See, look. I'm literally forcing it. Look at my veins. Look at my veins. This bolt will not go through. All right, I am pushing it. And it's like that on every last one of these eccentric washers. And again, that's because there's a coating inside here, and it's just thick enough so that it doesn't let this bolt pass through. So there is a couple solutions. If you have a Dremel, you could take a Dremel and literally just, lightly just take this surface of this material off. You can lightly just remove this black surface on the inside diameter here, right? And that'll give you just enough room to push that bolt through. I did it on the passenger side and it worked. If you don't have a Dremel, you can go old school. There's nothing wrong with going old school. It takes a little time. Your fingers might cramp up a little bit. Look, yep, see, yep, there's that carpal tunnel. There's that carpal tunnel. But it'll work. Literally just take a little small screwdriver or any little sharp tool, and you're literally just going to scrape. And you're going to just scrape off that top coat so that you can slide the bolt through. And what I did was I did it on all sides, only the center, right? And I'll just keep scraping it. And once I feel like I have enough material scraped off, I'll test the bolt and see if it goes through. But mind you, it might take a little while. So if you got a little Dremel tool, that will speed up the process. If not, there's nothing wrong. You can just do it this way, and get a little zen while you're getting it in. And voila! Now we've tested all 4 of these eccentric washers, and they fit. So what you'll do is do exactly what I did. Take two of the washers and install them all the way to the head of the bolt. And we will start to install the lower control arm. All right, now we get to the Big Daddy. This is the lower control arm. There's a few things you want to know. This is the mounting tab for the sway bar end link. You want to make sure it's facing forward towards the front of the subframe. Do not let it face backwards. As you can see, there's no way to install it this way, but just to take precaution, and it says it in the instructions, make sure this mounting tab for the sway bar end link is facing towards the front. Another giveaway is there's this beautiful, lovely Ritex sticker that also faces towards the front. I feel like Vanna White doing that. Beautiful Ritex sticker. So that's one thing you need to know. And then there's also the spacers right here. These spacers will snap onto the ends of each area on this lower control arm. Now, normally it should just snap in place just like that. This is the inside. That's the outside. So the inside should just snap on and stay in place. But if it doesn't, Ritex says that you can use petroleum jelly, grease, or in my case, I have my version of my grease right here. I'll just put a little bit of sauce. I end up having to do it on the other side. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Just going to remove this cap and put, just a generous amount, whatever generous is to you, okay? Because if you go to Hometown Buffet, to the all-you-can-eat, you're going to be there is no generous, okay? There's just all or nothing. I pay my $22.75. I want all the food I can eat. So literally just put a good amount of grease on each side, and then I'll demonstrate with this one, right? And then you'll just snap it in place, and that should hold. Now, I'm not going to lie. Even though this holds in place, you'll see in a moment, you still have to finesse this bad boy until it's holding place on the frame. So let me put the rest of these caps on. There's going to be one that goes here, and then another one that goes here and here. And remember, put grease on each one, and we'll try to install it with fingers crossed. Oh, I feel like when Simba was raised by his dad in Lion King, I started going to like sports events, and you see all the dads on the was it the Lion King cam or the Simba cam where they're raising all their babies like this. Oh, it's hilarious, man. It's hilarious. So one thing that helped me install this lower control arm is I did it one side. I just did it one side at a time. And look, as you can see, the spacers are being held in by the grease. Now they will still come out, so you still have to be careful when you install this bad boy because they will fall. But what I do is start one at a time. If you start with the front or the rear, it's up to you. That was another problem I ran into is it was hitting the ground and it wasn't allowing full travel. So that made it hard to install this. So if you can get this subframe off the ground far enough to where the lower control arm can have full swing, full extension, that will help. So I'm going to attempt to hold. I'm going to attempt to put one side in, and hopefully the spacers do not come out. Okay. The other tricky thing is there's a bushing inside, so sometimes you might have to just kind of, I don't know if you can see that. Yep. So what I did was I turned this bushing straight because it was cocked at an angle. So that should help me. There we go. That should help get it in straight. I just used the bolt to help me straighten that bushing out. And now I'll go in with the first side, or whatever side I want to go. West side, east side. Okay, it's going. Oh, we got some action, baby. I got part of the back side in, put that spacer in place. Now I'm going to attempt to put the front side in. And again, if it gives you a little issue, actually, let me go ahead and try to put the rest of the back side in first. This is what they mean by having the same orientation. So you see how the bolt and the eccentric is facing the same way? So what you want to do is you want to make sure each side is at that same angle or same position. So that's the back, right? And now look at the front. Okay, yep. And the front is facing that same angle so that when it snaps inside of this groove, when you push it inside that groove, right, it should match all the way around. So that's, yep, they're both facing the same exact way. So if this bolt was all the way over here and this bolt was in its same place, you could very well have some issues when it comes time to doing the wheel alignment. So with that said, I think we can move on to the next part. Oh, remember, don't forget to twerk them down. Don't forget to twerk them down. Not twerk them down, but twerk them down. We have reached the point of assembling the coilover. Yes, we're going to take you and we're going to take you and we're going to combine you two together. I feel like Bob Ross. We're just going to take this little coil over here, and then we're going to take this shock over here, and then we're just going to put that in there like that. And then we're going to put a little tree right here, a little cloud right there, and a little bird right there. And that's going to be our painting for the day. We're going to start by installing this preload adjustment nut. Now, if you look right there, there's this small white little plastic pin. You'll want to remove that first. That's just for pre-packaging so that this bad boy doesn't collapse on itself. You can literally just easily slip that out and remove it, okay? And then once you do that, you want to take the preload adjustment nut and just thread it in a few threads. What I'll do is I'll just thread it up just past the little RideTech sticker. That's what I'll do. I'll stop right there. Now, this rebound adjustment knob has to be removed in order to put this top mount on. You see that? Look, it's just like this. It's like, I wish I can go, but I can't. So to do that, what you want to do is you want to turn this knob, this rebound adjustment knob, all the way clockwise until it goes all the way in. Now what that's going to do is there's a rod on the inside of this. That's going to recess the rod all the way in. But you're not done yet. You're not done yet. You got to take your handy dandy tool. I think I'm using a T10. And what you're going to do is loosen the little screw counterclockwise while holding the knob so the knob doesn't move. And you'll just simply unscrew that bad boy, sit that there. Now this is the rod I was telling you about. Now before, this rod was all the way out here, no way to get that top mount or the washers on. So now that it's free, what we'll do is we'll install our first washer like so. Bingo. Just sit it down right there. Then here goes the coilover. Oh, that's why they call it a coilover, because it's a coil that goes over the shock. The more you know. Then what you would do is take the second washer, slide that on the top, followed by the top mount right here. Slide that top mount over. Now you see, look, we got room, baby. We got room. Now we can go in with no issues. So that'll sit in place, right? Just like so. And then the last part is you want to slide in this retainer clip. Love a retainer clip. This will sit right into this groove right here. So you can just snap it in place. I'm not going to do it because, again, all of this is coming apart so that it can be Cerakoted. This is temporary. So I'm not going to install this retainer clip. But just know when you install it, it needs to sit flush in this little groove. And once you do that, what you want to do is reinstall your rebound knob like so. Like so. There we go, like so. And you want to tighten that knob down. Don't over tighten it because you do not want to strip it, but get a nice little turn on it. Once that's done, Ridetech suggests that you turn this knob 12 clicks because right now it's in full stiff mode. It's like, I'm fully stiff and I don't feel nothing. If you want that, that's fine. If not, you just turn this bad boy 12 clicks back and then that'll put you, at the medium level between firm and soft ride. And then once it's fully assembled, you can go from there. One of the last things they want you to do is go ahead and raise this adjusting nut all the way to the top to take out any slack right between the coil and the shock. And then this is your locking nut, right? Your locking screw. This is your locking screw right here. You want to take that locking screw, wrong hands. Take that locking screw and you're just going to thread it in at the bottom. Now they want you to leave it loose because you'll have to make some adjustments later on, so you don't want it to be tight. And once you make those final adjustments, then you can lock this bad boy all in place. Last but not least, you can do this now, or you can wait until you get ready to install the shock on the car. These are the upper shock bearing spacer halves. All right, there's 4, right? So there's 2 that go in the top of the shock, all right, like so. And then there's another 2. Ooh, man, ooh, they got a little heavy. There's another 2 that goes in the bottom. And what that's going to do is it's going to take up the slack once you install this on the frame so that it doesn't move side to side. It'll give it a nice tight fit. That's pretty much it. And then the rest of the instructions is in the Ridetech manual, showing you how to do your ride height adjustment and all the other good stuff. So without further ado, let's put this bad boy on the frame. We're ready to install our coil, but I did leave out some information earlier. For your upper and lower control arm, there is a little Zerk feeding that you need to install inside the upper control arm ball joint and lower control arm ball joint. This one goes on the bottom. And that will allow you to fill the ball joint with grease. So please make sure you install those on all 4, both the upper and both lower control arms. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this control arm out of my way. And remember the spacers from earlier. You want to make sure that those are installed on the top. There's 2 that goes on the top. And then I already have the 2 on the bottom. So once I have that done, I'm going to grab my bolt, make sure I have a washer on the bolt. Oh, and I just dropped my bolt. Oh, man. Okay, let's do a balancing trick. Oh, I think I got it. Can I put the washer over the bolt? I might have to use my knee. Oh, it's, yes, we did it. Woo, that feels like a victory. They also want you to make sure that the threads of this bolt is facing the rear of the vehicle. So you want the head to face the front and the thread to face the rear of the vehicle. So I'm just gonna go ahead and slide that in. Uh-oh, I'm bringing Bob Ross back again. We're just gonna slide that in like that. Okay, we're just gonna line that up with the hole, right? And once we have that lined up, we're just gonna go ahead and push the push the bolt through. We're just gonna go all the way in just like that, boys and girls. Okay. Then we're gonna add a washer on the back side and our locking nut. Now what that will do is that'll allow us to have the coil to hang free on its own without us having to fight it. The other thing you notice is the rebound knob is facing outward. So make sure you do that. Do not make the mistake and have this adjustment knob installed on the inside of this frame. You will not have a happy day. I repeat, happy days will be none and voided. And plus, it makes it a lot easier to do your adjustments. So make sure it's facing out. Once you do that, we're going to repeat the same steps on the bottom. You're just going to bring that lower control arm up, right, like so, and slide the coil in place. Make sure the bolt, once again, the head of the bolt is facing the front of the subframe, and the back of the bolt where the threads are, you want to make sure they are facing the rear. And then with a little bit of massaging and sauce, it should slide through. Now, wait a minute, it's not sliding through. Okay, that's cool. I got a trick for that. Wait a minute. Oh, okay. I forgot. This is what I did on the other side. This washer was hitting the control arm. So what I had to do was it's kind of hard to see, but what I did is I pushed the washer past the control arm first so that it doesn't bind. And then I went ahead and installed the bolt. So put the washer in flush with the control arm so that it's past this bar, and then slide the bolt in. Otherwise, the washer will continue to hit, and it'll give you interference. You won't be able to install it. So we just put our nut and our washer and our nut on the back side, and once my slippery gloves can get a couple threads on there, we are done. Voila! And then torque it down to the recommended torque, and we're going to move on to the next part of this project, baby. We making progress. Give me some dap. Pound it. Sometimes you got to dap yourself. Oh, explode. All right, so let me scoop my seat up a little bit. I want to get real close to you. I want us to feel like we in the same room. Technically we are, because you're on your phone, your tablet, or your flat screen television. Or in the older days, they say the tube. So this is the rack and pinion. This is the one that RideTech offers from PSC. It's a quick ratio rack and pinion, and it's from a 79 through 93 Fox Body Mustang. You don't have to get this one. You can get a standard 79 through Mustang rack and pinion, but this is the one RideTech offers. You can get it from RideTech or from PSC or Summit. When I ordered this one, it actually, the bushings were already installed. And it actually posed a little problem, because if you look, the bushing actually has a sleeve. Here, let me do this so I can show you. There's a sleeve, right? And the frame already has a sleeve that comes welded onto the frame. It's a part of the frame. So that will cause interference. Like, there's no way I can install this. So what I end up doing is I just took these bushings and sleeves apart from the rack and pinion. It was super easy. I really just pried them out with a flathead screwdriver, and they slipped right out. It was super easy. So if you run into that issue, that's all you have to do. Otherwise, your rack and pinion might come without any bushings, and then RideTech actually provides you with the bushings for the front and for the back. And you literally just press them in. Super simple, super easy. And then what you want to do is go ahead and sneak this bad boy in place. What I did first was I actually put some grease on these sleeves here. That way it makes the install a little bit easier because you don't want to have these going in dry because you can get stuck and it'll make the install process a lot harder. As you see right now, what I'm doing is trying to get a good technique that will allow me to install this bad boy. Plus I have these jack stands in the way. Okay, I think that's going to work. All right, so once I do that, I literally just center these bushings onto the sleeves and I just start to push them in. And I'm just going to push them in. Once you have this installed, you want to slide it all the way to the base of these sleeves. If it gives you some trouble, just use a rubber mallet and tap each side a few times so that it goes on evenly. You want to grab the 2 bolts, washers and screws that are for the rack and pinion to the frame. Go ahead and slide those in like so. And then you want to install the washers and the locking nuts on the back side, and that will be it. Now we can move on to the next part of this project. The next step is to put your transmission cross member on, but I'm not going to do that right now because my motor and transmission is currently still in the 69 Camaro. So you can literally read through that section. It's pretty straightforward. I'm going to jump into the next section, which is putting the RideTech spindle together with the hub bearing. Now, they say you can use a C5, C6, or C7 Corvette hub. The difference between the C5, C6, C7 is the C5 and C6 has a wheel speed sensor in case you want to use that for your project. If you don't need the wheel speed sensor, then you can get the C7 hub because that one does not come with the sensor. This is a 2005 C6 Corvette hub. I'll probably just end up snipping this little wire off because I won't need it. I'm not running wheel speed sensors. So the first thing we want to do is slip the spindle over the hub like so. And what you're going to do is you're going to line up these three holes here. They're going to line up with the same 1, 2, 3. Ooh, I'm speaking Spanish. on the spindle. So let me go ahead and line that up like so. It should drop like butter. Oh, did you hear that? That's the butter drop. That's what happens when you drop it like butter. Now, RideTech also recommends that you add Loctite before installing them. I'm not going to do it because, again, this is all coming apart, so it can be Cerakoted. So just for the install tutorial purposes, I'm going to install these 3 dry. All right, I'm just going to thread them down enough so that they make good contact between the spindle and the hub. Okay, that one. Oh, I forgot. I still have the little zip tie on there, so that one's not going in. But we're going to pretend like that one's in. Okay, leave that one right there. Okay, we're going to use our imagination. Then I'm just going to go ahead and thread in the 3rd one. Okay, and like so. And then you want to torque it down to the recommended specs. If you're using the brake calipers that's recommended from RideTech, you can follow those instructions on installing their bracket. I'm using 5th gen Camaro 2014 front and rear calipers. Actually, I'm using the ZL1 calipers to be specific. So this is a bracket from a company called Big Break Upgrade. They give you this bracket to use instead. So what I'm going to do is we'll just pretend like this is the Ride Tech bracket. But I'm just going to install this here and these little countersink bolts. That way they're on, and then just kind of snug them down really quick. And then once your brake bracket is in, then you'll be ready to go ahead and install this bad boy on the car. So we'll go ahead, I'll finish tightening this down, and then I'll meet you guys back on the frame. I'm sorry, I said car earlier, I meant frame. I'm too excited. The next thing you want to do is you want to flip this hub. Over, and you want to install these inserts, and make sure the threaded part of the insert is facing the bottom of the spindle. Just drop them in. Just drop them like they hot. Bloop. And then it gets a little tricky, but you can do it. We're gonna do this together. Flip it back over, and with your other hand, hold these inserts in place. And then you want to take the steering arm. Now these steering arms, they will both fit. Here, I'll show you both. They will both fit on the back of the spindle. So it's very easy to get these confused in the direction that they get installed on. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that this steering arm, this little curved part here, you want to make sure that this opening is facing out, and you want to make sure that this part of the arm here is facing the front of the subframe. You can easily make the mistake and install the other one, and that will face towards the rear of the subframe, and we do not want that. So while I'm holding the inserts in place, I'm just going to lock in my bolts with the washers. Read the Ride Tech's instructions on adding the recommended Loctite and torque for these bolts. Again, this is all coming back apart, so I'm not going to do that right now. Just going to show you guys how this is assembled. So now that that's together, it should look something like that, and we're going to put it on the driver's side. And once again, you see the steering arm is facing towards the front of the subframe. Let's go ahead and install this bad boy. One more thing to point out, Ride Tech offers this spindle in two different styles. This is the hub style, which takes the Corvette C5 through C6 and C7 hub, or you can get it in the traditional pin style that takes like the old school roller bearings. And if you have that style, then the pin style spindle, then you can refer to their instructions on how to assemble that. This is just if you're running the Corvette style hub spindle. So I just wanted to point that out for you guys so you don't get confused. Now we're going to go ahead and install our spindle on the control arm. Now to give you a little bit of help, it's easy to put the spindle on the lower control arm first, right? And like I said before, you can see that the steering arm is facing the front. That's how you know you did it right. Well, I'm glad we did it right, because otherwise we'll be doing this 3 or 4 times, and we don't want to do that. But you see that it's on, and then you just take your castle nut, right, and you can just put that bad boy on there, right, and lock it down. All right, and then we'll do the same thing with the top. I'll bring the upper control arm, bring it down, bring it downtown. Woo, yeah, there we go. Woo, like butter. And then we'll put that castle nut on like that. We'll just thread that bad boy on. And then if you have your cotter pins, take the cotters and slide them in and lock these bad boys down to the recommended torque specs in the manual. And voila, and we have a steering arm. Oh, we making progress. We are ready to install our tie rods on the rack and pinion. And we have some components. This is our tie rod sleeve right here. This bad boy right here is our tie rod stud. Like me, I'm also a stud. Just kidding. And this is our Heim right here. Now, what they recommend you do is apply some anti-seize to these threads here, here, and it wouldn't hurt if you put it on the rack and pinion itself, just to prevent any galling, and it'll also allow you for a smooth install. So the first thing we want to do is install the tie rod sleeve onto the rack and pinion. This rack and pinion came with the jam nut already, but there's also one that comes in the kit. So you can use either or, but we're just going to thread that in. As you can see here, there is these little sight holes here, right? So what they say is they want to make sure that you can see the thread from the rack and pinion and the Heim through this sight hole. That's how you know you have it in secure enough to where it has a good grip and a good amount of thread. So we're just going to go all the way in enough to where I can start to see the thread through that sight hole. Just going, I'm threading and going. And okay, I can see it. I'm gonna go a little bit past it. All right. So now that that's set, right, I got my jam nut. Now I'm going to take the 5/8 nut and I'm going to thread that onto the Heim before I install it on that tie rod sleeve. Okay, come on, there we go. Don't make me look bad on camera. Not today, not today. All right, so let's just go ahead and thread that on. All right, we'll thread. All right, let's just go ahead and thread that on like so. All right, and then we'll install that on the outside of the tie rod sleeve. And then, like the instructions said, you want to thread this in until you can see the thread through that little sight hole, that little window, that little peekaboo, that little peekaboo. So, okay, I can see it now. All right, I'm seeing the thread through the little window opening. Lets me know I have it in through enough, and I actually went past it. So this thread is actually somewhere in here, and the same thing on this side, this thread is somewhere in here. It also gives you a lot of adjustment when you get ready to do the wheel alignment. So now that we have that done, we're going to take our tie rod stud and we're going to insert this little spacer. We're going to insert it right on the top, right, like so. And then you're going to insert it into the steering arm, and then you'll put on your castle nut. And if you have your cotter pin, you'll put your cotter pin through the tie rod stud to keep it in place. And then there's another spacer. Woo, there's two. So this one will go on the bottom. Then you want to just go ahead and install your Heim joint onto the tie rod stud. All right, like that. Once you got that in place, you'll install the second spacer and then the 5/8 locking nut. And then you want to torque that down to the spec, and voila. We have our steering arm and tie rods assembled. Look, oh, it's working. It is working, baby. Cool, let's move on to the next step. It's the final countdown. We have finally reached the last part to install on the subframe, and then we'll be done. This is the front sway bar. It comes with the subframe kit. What you want to do first is you want to separate this bushing from the billet mounting strap, right? And once you have that separated, this bushing has a slit inside of it. So what you're going to do is just slide that bushing right over there. And then what you want to do is have it just a few inches away from this bend. And then slide the billet mounting strap back over it. The cool thing is there is a anti-friction liner inside of this bushing, so you don't have to put any grease or lubricant. That's what that anti-friction material is for. And I'm just going to slide this side over, put the billet mounting strap on like so. Make sure each one is just a few inches from the bend, and voila, we are ready to install this on the subframe. So let's do that right now. This is the hardware for the sway bar. You have your 3/8 bolts, 3/8 washers, and your 3/8 locking nuts. There's an identical set for the passenger side of the vehicle. This is our sway bar end link. We'll get to that in a moment. It's going to get a little tricky, so I'm going to do my best to give you guys a view of how I install the sway bar, especially when you're by yourself. So that makes things a little complicated. But let's go ahead and dive in. I wanted to show you guys the mounting points for the sway bar before I do it, because it'll be hard to get the camera in here later. So this is the mounting section. You see the holes for the sway bar, and it's inside this pocket right here. And it's the same way on the opposite side. I figured I'd give you guys a good visual before I go ahead and start installing it so you can see the location. So now I'll go ahead and install the sway bar. Okay, so when you're doing this, if you're doing this by yourself, woo, good luck. I hope you got friends that can help you, because it will make this job a lot easier. But we're going to attempt it. So first, we're going to take our 3/8 bolt. We're going to slide a washer, one of the 3/8 washers on there, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my washer and nut on the inside of the frame, so that once I install this bolt, all I have to do is hopefully slide the washer and the 3/8 nut over it, and then I'll let this side hang, and then I'll repeat it on the opposite side. Fingers crossed. Let's do this. All right. So I'm just going to slide the bolt in there like so. Boom. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just letting the sway bar rest on the top of the rack and pinion on the opposite side of me, to kind of help me a little bit, give me some support. Everybody needs a little support system. Oh, look, I'm actually sticking my hand through the top of this subframe pocket. And I'm going to stick my hand through there. That just allowed me to slide the washer on top. Now I'm going to switch hands, and I'm going to slide the nut on top of the bolt. Don't tell me this is working. Don't tell me this is working. Oh, it's working, baby. We turning. We got some tightness going on. Oh, snap, it worked. Cool. All right, so look, now that that's supported, before I do the back side, I'm just going to go ahead and do the opposite side. That way they're both supported. And then I'll go ahead and finish the rest. So let me literally repeat what I've done. And since this side is supported by the subframe now, it'll make this go a lot quicker and a lot easier. Bam. Woo! Money. So now I'll just do the rest of the hose, and we'll move on to the end link. Now we're ready for this guy. Oh yeah, hey, where you going, fella? Where you going? Oh, hello. All right, so now we can go ahead and install our sway bar end link. And what you want to do is take this adapter bushing right here, and you want to slide it right over the end link. And by the way, the threads of the end link is going to face the steering arm. So you want it to face towards the steering arm, and then you want the bottom of the end link to go into that end link mount that we talked about earlier in the video. That's on the lower control arm. So what I'm going to do is just install the top side in first, like so. All right, and then I'm going to take the second adapter bushing right there and just slide it on. And then we're going to take our hefty locking nut and just tighten that bad boy on. And then the bottom, right, we have washers. So here we go. Let's see. So we have washers here. I'm going to install a washer on the bottom side, push it through the mounting point on the control arm. I'm going to take my second washer and install that on the other side of the thread, and then put my locking nut on, and voila, we have action, baby. Now let's take a look at this. Let's take all this in and see what we've accomplished today. Ho, ho, ho. We did it, y'all. We did it, baby. It is done. So your subframe should look something like this. Everything's on. Man, this thing looks amazing. I gotta give it to Rytech once again. The instructions was pretty straightforward, very easy to follow. I'm super excited the way this thing looks. And if you have any questions on putting your subframe together, if you get stuck anywhere, just leave me a comment and I'll get back to you. Or you can also hit up Rytech's tech line and ask them your question via email or through the telephone. I'm super stoked. Once again, I have to tear mine back apart because we got this bad boy that's going to receive this. But if you're at the point to where you're getting ready to install yours, congratulations. Let me know how it goes. Let Rytech knows how everything goes. It should perform beautifully. And man, we did it. We did it as a community. We knocked this out the park. So you know what to do. Until next time, in the meantime, in between time, make sure you hit those buttons to like, comment, share, subscribe. Keep twerking them riches. Let's get this subframe torn down so we can put it back together. And I'll see you on the next one. Big O!